Where the children are?
Yeah, where are the children? It says you have 102 children here, and you got $2.66 million this year in funding, and $2.5 million last year. We're just wondering where the kids are.
Yeah.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. Look at that. Shut us down. Where are the children at? No children inside of this daycare center. And look at this daycare center right here. No children inside of this daycare center. But between those buildings, over $2.6 million.
So we're going to be checking out some videos about Nick Shirley, the independent journalist who went to a daycare. It's really like a very viral topic right now because the Somalians have really been on the radar due to like conversation about fraud there in Minnesota. Went to a daycare and he was there trying to see the kids. It's like he wants to see the kids. He's trying to get into the building and they refused to let him. So then he decided to come up with a conclusion saying that this is fraud. He doesn't believe they're running the business. They're just getting money from the government. So, well, right now, the whole thing has actually started to backfire in some way because his video and what he has said and came to the conclusion of is making a lot of people actually dig into him and believe that he's just a plant. Like so many people have been saying, oh, possibly he's a plant by the government, the right wing. They're just trying to spread this narrative, trying to find a way to raise child payment. And well, because they believe that something like that is actually written in the big beautiful bill. And then again, people are doing some background check on him and they are saying so much. So I thought we should just check out this video so you can see for yourself what people are saying about him. But before we get right into this video, please make sure you click the like button. It helps with the algorithm and I appreciate that so much. Let's get right into this video.
Nick Shirley, the journalist who exposed fraud taking place in Minnesota, has just been exposed even more than he already was. So here's the daycare center where they misspelled the word learning. And this is the sign that Nick, for some reason, tried to hide in his video. This is a close-up picture of that sign, and you can take a look at their hours right here. 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Now, this is a close-up image from Nick's YouTube video of a lady's phone screen that answered the door at the next place he visited. And if you take a close look, you can see it says it's 1:09 p.m. This means that Nick went to that daycare center, saw the sign on the door, and intentionally went there before they were supposed to open to try to expose them as not having any kids in the building or locking their doors. Pretty disingenuous, isn't it? But it somehow gets even worse. This specific place he went to is confirmed to be closed. I did some more research to try to find out some more information about who exactly this guy is and why he's coming up out of nowhere. And it turns out he went on a full-fledged propaganda tour to Israel just a few months ago. What a coincidence. Now this guy's being heavily amplified by Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, and the entire conservative media sphere. This is nothing more than propaganda that's meant to dehumanize the Somali people. MAGA pretends to care about fraud so much, but they didn't say a single word when Trump pardoned the guy that committed a $1.2 billion nursing home fraud scheme.
You're not going to believe this. Nick Shirley, the investigative reporter who exposed the fraud in Minnesota. Someone in my comments section said, look up his parents. They're fraudsters. So I looked up their parents. And I am holding the case right here. I want to preface this by saying I am not an attorney, and I urge everybody to pull up the court records directly. This was filed in the United States Bankruptcy Court, District of Utah's Northern Division. The case is Thrive National Corporation and Thrive Systems suing Paul Shirley, Nick's father, Brooke Shirley, Nick's mother, and Amy Hall and Bailey Hall, the brother and sister-in-law, or it would seem Nick's aunt and uncle. I'm going to summarize some of this as I understand it. They ran a company that collected payment from gym members and would remit that payment to the gyms. And they apparently, from what I'm understanding, committed fraud in doing so. And this company that was suing them went insolvent, in part, according to this, because of the fraud committed by Nick's parents. And now I'm just going to read straight from this so that you can take it whatever way you want. Defendant Paul Shirley is a resident of Utah who formerly resided in Washington State. Defendant Brooke Shirley is a resident of Utah who formerly resided in Washington State. Those are Nick's parents. The Shirleys are the sister-in-law and brother-in-law of Bailey Hall Amy Hall is a resident of Utah and Hall's spouse. Defendant Mayton LLC, which is something Bailey Hall set up, along with their attorney, Jason Yancey, is also a defendant in this, okay? Yancey is actually Hall's personal attorney. So according to the general allegations, prior to filing bankruptcy, the debtors, the company that's suing, were primarily in the business of providing billing, payment processing, and collection services to health clubs and gyms across the country. More specifically, the billing services included collecting all of the payments that were owed to the gym clients by their own clients, retaining a small portion of the payments as a commission, approximately 6%, and remitting the rest of the funds back to the gym clients. In the years prior to this petition date, Hall directed the debtors to stop remitting funds back to the gym clients. Hall, remember, is the brother-in-law of Nick's parents, either in whole or in part, and would use the funds that the debtors kept in unremitted funds to fund his personal lifestyle and fund the business of other entities he owned or controlled. TSI was primarily responsible for overseeing and operating the billing services, while TNC owned most of the assets. Hall had unfettered access to and exercised significant, if not complete, control over the debtors' payroll and other bank accounts. On information and belief, Hall directed TSI to add the Shirleys, Nick's parents, and Amy Hall, his wife, to the TSI payroll. For example, in 2015, TSI paid Brooke, Nick's mother, a salary of approximately $24,588. On information and belief, Brooke was on TSI's payroll in the years preceding 2015. So this went on for a while. Similarly, in 2015, TSI paid Amy Hall, Nick's aunt, a salary of approximately $57,588. On information and belief, Amy Hall was on TSI's payroll in the years preceding 2015. On information and belief, Paul, Nick's dad, was also paid funds through the debtor's payroll in the years prior to 2015, together with all payroll amounts to Amy Hall and Brooke, including amounts yet to be discovered or specifically identified, the fraudulent payroll transfers. Neither the Shirleys nor Amy Hall performed work for the debtors or for the benefit of the debtors. In addition to paying Amy Hall and the Shirleys through the debtor's payroll service, the debtors paid the Shirleys through direct payments. And it lists a whole bunch of direct payments. And it goes on to talk about that Mayton entity Nick's uncle owned with his personal attorney, and how this company suing them, all their money went to helping him, this lawyer, live in a very, very expensive home. And in this suit, it says there's a pattern of willful and fraudulent behavior, including making transfers to family members and insider entities with little regard to the debtor's legitimate creditors. Gosh, it sounds like a bunch of empty buildings with people getting a lot of money that really weren't on the payroll. And then they had a kid who made a video about a bunch of Somalis in Minnesota. There you go.
All right, let's talk about my boy Nick Shirley for a second, because what he's been exposing up in Minnesota should piss every single one of us off. Nick didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, let me stir some shit up. He went out, he filmed, he documented, and he started asking questions about millions and millions of taxpayer dollars going to a daycare that sure as hell doesn't look like they're doing what they get paid to do. And suddenly everybody wants to lose their minds over the fact that he dared to ask questions. Like accountability is offensive now. Like transparency is racist. Like taxpayers aren't allowed to wonder where their damn money is going. Now let's be clear before everyone loses their shit in the comments. The allegations are still being argued, officials are scrambling, statements are being made, investigations are being talked about. You know, the only reason that this blew up is because everybody already knew the system has been bleeding money for years. Billions in program funding, billions in assistance, billions in relief, and then somehow it just disappears. Somehow it gets mismanaged. Somehow it ends up in the wrong hands over and over again. And we're supposed to just sit here, keep paying taxes, smile, and then pretend that it's totally fine because the government says so. Nah, hell no. We're talking about our money. We're talking about programs that are supposed to help real families. We're talking about systems that are wide open for abuse while regular Americans are busting their ass just to survive. And then when someone like Nick shows up with the camera and says, hey, this doesn't look right, suddenly the government shows up like, no, everything's fine, don't question it. Of course they don't want you questioning it. Of course they don't want it, they don't want eyes on it. Because when people start paying attention, shit gets uncomfortable real fast. But here's the bigger picture. This isn't just about Minnesota. This isn't just about daycare centers. This is about how easy it is for massive systems to get exploited, how fast your tax dollars disappear, and how little transparency we actually get in return. And yeah, it's tied to immigration. Yeah, it's tied to government programs. Yeah, it's tied to bullshit that nobody in power wants to talk about, honestly, because it's politically inconvenient to admit that these systems are broken. It's easier to scream, don't question it, than it is to likely admit that they fucked up. But you know what? People are getting fed up. People are tired of working themselves into the ground while they're watching billions and billions vanish into programs that nobody can explain. People are tired of being told to shut up and trust a system that hasn't earned trust in a long damn time. So whether every single claim ends up being proven in court or not, or isn't even the full point anymore, the point is that people are watching, people are questioning, and people are done pretending that shit like this doesn't matter. And if that makes people uncomfortable, good. It should. Because when there's this much money on the line, when it involves kids, when it involves the government, when it involves immigration, when it involves taxpayer dollars, they deserve answers, not excuses, not a spin of silence, the actual accountability. And if it takes a 20-something kid with a camera to force that conversation, then maybe that tells you everything you need to know about who really gives a damn and who doesn't. Happy New Year.
The Somalis are getting really cooked on the internet right now, and I'm not even here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the fact that these people really follow their religion to a T, and this is what they are being charged with. Fraud on their businesses and stuff. I don't know. 2 and 2 is not equals 4 right now, because how can you tell me a person will go to a bank, open a savings account, and specifically ask the bank not to give them interest, even though the interest is 0.01%. But this same person is frauding people out of millions of dollars from their business. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? I'm not on anybody's side, but if you haven't heard a story of how these Somalis are opening business and defrauding the government out of millions of dollars, there's a YouTuber called Nick Shirley, and he has covered every single bit from Minnesota, and he's currently working on the businesses here in Columbus, Ohio too. So go find out for yourself. Like I said, I'm not here to support anyone. I'm not here to talk bad about anybody. 2 and 2 is not just making sense to me. A plus B is not equal to Z right now. So somebody make it make sense. How are you following your religion to a T? But something ain't right.
All I'm going to say is this. If I had kids and there was a random man trying to get into that daycare, even the front lobby, I would sue that daycare to high heaven, and then I would proceed to beat that man's. Only in America you can find people who have the audacity to think that they can just enter any type of building, any type of organization without any credentials, all because they pay taxpayer dollars. It's insane.
What was done was someone came to our building outside of operating hours. When there's a specific sign on our door that says our days and our hours, he came outside of those hours and then claimed, hey, they're closed and they're still making money. We've been open. We haven't closed. We've been open for eight and a half years now. We haven't closed once during that period.
The manager of a daycare in Minnesota gave the previous statement to Fox News regarding investigations into alleged fraud occurring at daycares across the state. The manager and son of the owner of the viral Quality Leering Center assures that there is no fraud and that their facility has been open for over 8 years with no problems. He claims he was visited outside of normal operating hours, referring to Nick Shirley's viral video where he visits daycare centers across the state, and claims that the visit outside of normal hours is what made the facility look so inactive. He also said they are aware of the typo on the sign and that issue has since been resolved. A local resident told the New York Post that the activity around the learning center was highly unusual and said, "We've never seen kids go in there until today. That parking lot is empty all the time, and I was under the impression that place is permanently closed." In 2018, a video surfaced during a state fraud case showing parents dropping off their children, signing them in at a daycare, and then immediately taking them right back out. Investigators say this is so the providers could bill the state for a full day of care, even though the children didn't actually attend. The Post says dozens of people, vast majority Somali immigrants, have been arrested in the fraud scheme, of which $1 billion has been found to be misappropriated so far. This is a developing and ongoing story, so we will update you as soon as we have more info.
It has nothing to do with race.
I'm gonna call bullshit on that right quick, because if this has nothing to do with race, then why is a White House advisor calling for deportation? If this has nothing to do with race, then why are these Somali daycare operators so terrified to open the doors, not just because there are kids inside that they are rightfully protecting, but also because they are terrified of the increased policing activity of Black and brown people in their neighborhood?
Hassan says his employee didn't respond because Shirley was in a group of about 8 people, and his staff were concerned about recent ICE activity.
If this has nothing to do with race, then why is everyone decrying the Somali American community while ignoring the white woman who was the ringleader of the biggest fraud case in the state? If this has nothing to do with race, then why are Black and brown immigrants being targeted while the wealthiest man, who happens to be a white immigrant, is free to illegally pollute Black communities in Tennessee? The answer is because it has everything to do with race. It's just another instance of the wealthy elite trying to distract people from their untenable wealth by propagandizing them with information about people who are other than them based on race, sex, or other immutable characteristics.
Check out this clip and let's talk on the other side.
They can't give you any information. You call that number, no one answers. I wasn't trying to go inside, and there should be a way for somebody to actually be able to call that number and somebody be able to answer. These aren't real businesses.
But surely you don't think a daycare should just be unlocked. You shouldn't be able to just walk into a
There
daycare.
should be a reception.
No, every daycare is locked.
Their doors are locked.
And so, okay, you bring up a fair point.
One part about this entire supposed fraud story coming out of Minnesota, besides the racism of it all, I mean, Donald Trump is being overtly racist in statements like this. And besides the stupidity of folks who are literally falling for this hook, line, and sinker, because I'm at the point now where I'm like, you just have to be stupid and racist to believe this on the front end. Besides all of that, only white folks would show up somewhere and be like, I am entitled to just take a look around and check out things. Like, only white folks have that kind of audacity, because only white people believe that their tax dollars entitle them to everything that is afforded to taxes, while at the same time, they will demonize any and everyone who receives any benefit from the taxes that they believe they're the only ones who pay into. Because mind you, the very people that they're out here discriminating against pay taxes. But their racism and entitlement runs so deep that they will literally commit a crime of trying to break and enter into a childcare facility, violate every set of norms, be met with the facts that you shouldn't do that, and go, well, I should still be able to just get information. I mean, I'm an American. Because the reality is, racism and white supremacy in America is not just an issue of being racist and white supremacist. It's an audacity issue. It's audacity, it's entitlement, and it is a lack of consequences. Because this young man is not only defrauding so many people, defaming so many people, lying intentionally on the internet, but was trying to break and enter into childcare facilities. And the fact that Republicans are sitting back being like, we need to protect the money and protect the children, while Trump out here selling off parts of the country to the highest bidder, and we know he in them files. Which circles me back to the statement that Trump made in the first place about Somalia being one of the most corrupt places on earth. And the reality is, as long as Trump is at the helm, we have become that corruption. We have become one of the most dangerous countries on earth, because we have a con man leading the charge and a bunch of gullible, racist, entitled people following suit. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Here in Minnesota, massive fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong, and they said leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government. And the strange things about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday. And if you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working, midday. Children should be in here. And this place is licensed for 99 children. And this is the outside. There's no windows, no nothing. And like I said, they literally spelt the word wrong on their sign. This is open and blatant fraud taking place here inside of Minnesota. The government is complicit with this, and this is just one of the hundreds of child daycare centers here inside of Minneapolis being ran by the Somali population. It's sad that it's happening here in Minnesota, and it stinks that it's happening and it's being labeled on the Somali population. However, that's just the facts of what's happening here inside of Minnesota. $1.9 million for this daycare center that can't even spell learning right.
So in some of these videos, when this guy Nick Shirley actually showed up to those buildings, he came with multiple men that had masks on. So it's like, if that is true, that's kind of scary. When you go and actually check the news and see if you can find out any information, as at the moment we are making this video, there's actually no confirmation that there's actually fraud, that those that these daycares are committing fraud yet. It was actually what Nick Shirley said by going to those places. And then a lot of people have actually said, like, as you have heard in the video, where many people actually noticed that the time in which he went to those daycares, that wasn't the time where kids actually are supposed to even be there in the building, because some of them actually run, I think, by 2 p.m. tonight, or like people who daycares that are open at night. So the timing wasn't even matching when he went. Like, he went during the hours where they were not operating. So really nothing has been confirmed, and but at the end of the day, you know, people are still gonna keep talking about it. I know there will be a lot of investigation that will be done on the whole thing. So after the investigation, I guess everyone will hear what the final thing is. There have even been some news outlets who actually went to go and do some investigation after Nick Shirley's claim, and they found no recorded evidence of fraud. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below what you think about this. Please don't forget to click the like button. It helps the algorithm, and I appreciate that so much. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you're watching me for the very first time. Hit the notification bell to get notified every time I post a new video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.